Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our presentation on building relationships. My name is Mike Fagans, and I am currently an assistant principal at Rossville Elementary School. And this is a great topic that I'm just super excited about building and presenting to you guys. It's one of the things that I just feel is so important in our education world today. So let's just kind of go over, first of all, our presentation and our plans for what our presentation is. This presentation is going to explore the importance of building meaningful relationships with students as a foundation for their academic and personal success. We're going to talk about different strategies, creating a supportive, inclusive environment, fostering trust, understanding individual student needs, and we'll discuss just clear expectations and just really kind of go over so much today and the importance of building a relationship just with the school, with the students, with the classroom, and different things like that. So I'm super excited about this opportunity and can't wait to present and share with you guys. One of my favorite thoughts, and when I went in education, went to undergraduate school at Ball State, and I just remember one of my professors saying, and actually might have been even my student teacher supervisor saying, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And that really stuck with me, and just the importance of that. And that's from Theodore Roosevelt. And it's just truly something I build my education philosophy off of. Something that I just feel like is so important for everybody to understand is just, you can know so much about whether the subject you're teaching or the classes that you are doing, or you've been in education forever, but it's just the students truly respond is when they truly know how much you care and how much you're willing to go that extra mile for them and just be there for them. So that's just a quote that I just want you to remember as we're going through this presentation, that we're just going to kind of keep going back to and just making sure that that is something that just remembers that it's not the knowledge that you know, but it's just that how much you care for the students. So who am I? So I've been in education for 32 years. Like I said, I got my undergraduate at Ball State. I got my bachelor degree in education leadership at Purdue University. My first 6 years, I taught at West Lafayette at the middle senior high school. I taught business and social studies, loved it there. And then I decided I wanted to be a head basketball coach and traveled to Rensselaer. I was a head basketball coach there for 10 years. Decided to give it up and just kind of focus on my family. And then I was a middle school teacher, tech coach, in charge of PBI celebration for 11 years at the middle school. And then currently the last 5 years, I've been an elementary assistant principal. And so it's been kind of a blessing for me just to be able to go from the high school to the middle school to elementary, and just to see the different needs and wants of students and just the different places where students are and how they respond and who they are. So like I said, it's just been a blessing for me just to have that experience. And one of the things that I've always said, my grandpa was an educator, my father was an educator, and I just always remember that one of the most important things is, building that relationship, getting to know the students and building their trust, that it was so important for everybody to have that relationship. So one of the things I've started noticing in education, and I mean, even from the very beginning, but I feel like it's even more, you're starting to see it more now, of what is said or thoughts that are said, shared, or thoughts that teachers have or administrators have is, oh, that kid is in your class. Oh, good luck with that kid. Oh, I can't believe you have that kid. Or last year, he or she did this. Oh, they were always getting in trouble. They were always doing this. Oh, they struggled. Or that kid lives in this part of the town, or they came from this school, or they was at our school and then they went to this school, or their parents are divorced, their family life's like this, etc. Or, oh, do you remember his brother or sister and who they were? Oh my goodness, good luck with that student. And then we also talked about, oh, he always wants to get in trouble. That's his number one goal. It's just he's in there to try to get in trouble, and he doesn't care about anything. And that's, he's always wanting to be in trouble. He doesn't care about school, and, or when he or she isn't here, wow, we got so much done. We get so much done when that student's not here, or here he or she goes again. They're walking in and they're already in a bad mood. or I don't listen. Oh my goodness, and just that frustration. And I love that the little screen at the bottom of the line is just showing the frustration. And I feel like moving from being a teacher to an assistant principal and just seeing like sometimes we just that student just gets under our nerves and we just want to like, man, if I could just have a week without that student, or if I could transfer that student to another class, or if that student did this or that, what a better classroom I would have, or what a better opportunity for the other students. Or I have 20 other students and I focus all my time on that one student. And I think that's just something that we really, sometimes, we forget to let go of that frustration, or forget that it's a new day, or sometimes we even forget that they're students. And I know, I mean, I trust me, I've been in the situation where I've had students that got underneath my skin, and I just like, okay, how am I going to do this? And sometimes it's that time where we just have to take a deep breath and say, okay, that student or those students, they're struggling right now. How can I build that relationship to show that I care, so we can get more results from them, and to really truly help them in every way, or to make the classroom just a more of a positive experience for everybody. So one of the things that I really started noticing is just the time that students are spending online. I mean, I even see like even the last 5 years, because of COVID, the number of kids that are spending more time online. And where when I grew up, it was like, hey, mom and dad or the babysitter would be like, hey, it's a beautiful day outside. Let's go outside and let's do something outside. Where today's teenagers, they're on social platforms, and it's really have made a huge difference. And you can see with this graph just the number of hours that students are spending. And you look at this hours per day that the all teenagers are spending about 4 to 0.8 hours a day just on platforms. You look at YouTube, those numbers, you look at TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I know, we're all thinking, oh, Facebook's the old people, thing, but there's still kids who really spend a lot of time on Facebook. You got Twitter or X now. WhatsApp is more probably for not as much as kids. And then WeChat hasn't even made that. But, I'm noticing, so many students are getting in trouble, or just the searches on YouTube, or I want to watch this video, or I want to be part of that video. And I'm just spending so much time. And so then you start thinking about, if that's our students and they're building those relationships, they're starting to get a false hope sometimes, or a false reality of how things are truly are. And, oh, I'm watching this YouTube and everything's perfect, or I'm watching this YouTube and learning how to do this or whatever. And that's almost kind of like, I don't want to say like replacing our parents, but even replacing our influences on our kids. And I even know so much in the last couple of years of kids like, oh, hey, can I have some time to get on YouTube? Or hey, I'm done with my work, can I get on YouTube? And it's just that constant, even like, it amazes me, like kids just love watching. It makes me smile. Kids love watching people playing video games. And I'm just like, that it blows my mind. Like, okay, so you want to watch a YouTube of people playing video games where you're not even playing the video games, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just entertaining. Well, then I started noticing, even in 2024, and I put the question, does this surprise you, where people are spending their time? And, I could have shown you like back like 30 years ago, where like online was at the bottom, and just currently where people like parents, family, grandparents are spending 60 to over 60% of their time online, where the friends were like the top priority, or coworkers, this. And you're thinking, wait, we're talking about students, but I just want to even show you the influence, like parents, going out to eat, restaurants, 4.9%, and the family, that has dropped to fifth on where people are spending their time. And school is like 3 point, and church is like 2.1, and neighbors and colleges, just those numbers are just crazy, just how much time people are spending online. And if you think about that, that's the influence, that's the relationship that they're getting, that they get into the YouTube videos, or they just get into like that part. And it's always funny. I laugh at students. Like, when was the last time you made a phone call? And they're like, "Oh, Mr. Fagans, we don't make phone calls. We just text each other, or we'll send Snapchats." And I'm like, "But how do you have a conversation?" And they're like, "Oh, we just send it back and forth, and there's not really to that." So we're looking at this when we're talking about that building relationships. Um, we're not getting that interaction from human to human as much anymore. And it's more just watching that. And I'm not trying to sound so depressing or trying to, you obviously know a lot of this, but it's just that reality of where we are at. And I've said so many times, the effect that COVID has on us. And, I look at our, current third or fourth graders, when COVID hit, they were in kindergarten or first grade or preschool, where they're learning social skills, they're learning to build relationships. They were told to stay home, stay 6 feet away from each other, wear a mask. And then all of a sudden now they're third graders, and we're having situations about, this happened on the playground or this happened in the classroom. And it's those social skills that they would have probably learned in preschool, kindergarten, first grade. They're lacking those. And we have become so more dependent on the online part of life, where you see like a canvas is becoming more part of that. And the different parts of where the influence of conversations or those relationships are now becoming that computer or the phone relationship or the iPad relationship. I have a grandson who's 4, and we'll go out to eat, and sometimes, like, I'll see his mom and dad like, "Oh, do you want the phone?" Just to have that little quietness, or like they're, and I but it's more just that, okay, if we give them the phone, it's just that it's something that they're used to, they can focus on. And it's like, man, we're getting away from the teaching of, hey, when we go out to eat, being able to sit there and to be part of the conversation and stuff like that. And so it's been an interesting just to see, like I said, I've been in education 32 years, but just the last 5 years, just the change of our students and the more online that they're spending their time on. So one of the things I think is so important, that when we really start talking about the building relationships, is the perception. What our students see. You look at that mirror, you see that student where they see nothing. Like, they just see them a very small, very unimportant part of their lives. Just not even a big part of who they are, and just that little. Um, not the big picture, but then when you step back and you see what the fish looks like, you see, like, man, there's so much more to them, the beauty of the different colors and stuff like that. But our students, their self-esteem and their, a lot of who they are, their just it's lacking. And there's so many times, like, a student might come to my office and they're in trouble, like, I'm always in trouble, or I hate, like, I hate myself, or stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, now wait a minute second, you made a bad choice. And trying to build that relationship where you made a bad choice, but we need to not focus on that bad choice, or you're not a horrible person because you made one mistake, but to truly see that you're more than just that little image in the mirror, that you're a much bigger and much better person than what you think you are. And I think that's so important when we start talking about this, and we'll get into this a lot more later in the presentation, of just the importance of building that relationship to help the students to see who they truly are, and to truly help them see that bigger picture. So the first thing that I really want to talk about, why relationships matter. I'm a huge fist bump. They give me a hard time all the time about giving fist bumps, and we always laugh because when I had my first year of administration, and during COVID, I had to do elbow bumps, and it's so crazy. But I'm going to call these the fist bumps of why. The positive of why relationships matter. Strong relationships create a safe and supportive learning environment. And I think that's so important for us to really focus on as educators, is because, so many of our students are coming from homes. I had a situation a few years ago where I had a student, coming to me, and I'm like, okay, what's going on, bud? And they're like, hey, dad is in prison, mom is, doing this, and I'm just, I'm really struggling. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we're looking at this big picture of them not doing their homework, but there's so many different factors that they were coming to school for safe, or we had a couple of students who were like right before Christmas break or right before Thanksgiving break, they're getting in trouble, and the teacher's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "They're struggling because they're taking away that positive, safe environment that they get here at school from 8 to 3. They get 2 meals. They're getting people who love them, and they're going home to where, they have brothers and sisters who are busy and different things going on, and it's just not that positive environment." So one of the things that's so important for educators building that relationship is that showing them that safe and supportive learning. Students are more engaged, motivated, and willing to take risks when they feel valued. And I truly believe that, the students, like, if you have that student where you're like, "Oh, he's always getting in trouble," and they're doing this, when they're not going to be engaged, they're not going to be motivated, they're not going to want to really try to do that. But if you're showing that relationship and really getting to know them, they're going to be willing to take those extra risk and being willing to know that they feel valued. And then positive relationships contribute to the emotional well-being and academic performance. I'm going to show you some data here in a little bit of just the different parts of the importance of the positive relationships and how the data shows that emotionally students are better, emotionally educators are better, and emotionally the academic performances will increase. And then I like to call that the smiles, or the supporting evidence. Research links teacher-student relationships to higher academic achievement and to lower dropout rates. That if we're building those relationships, if they feel that positive emotional well-being, they're willing to stay in school, they're willing to do the extra work, they're willing to do the higher academic achievement. And the emotional connections help students develop and social skills, resilience, sorry, messed up on that, and social skills. And I think that's so important. And I'm not trying to be a negative when I say this, but I'm starting to learn more and more that the parent relationships, it's like almost schools are becoming that second parent to kids, just trying to teach them the social skills of, hey, when you're in the cafeteria, you don't have to yell to get people's attention. Building those social skills on how to work with people through problems, building those social skills of just being positive and seeing somebody who's struggling, and not to be mean to them, but to truly ask them, "Hey, what's wrong? How can I help you?" And I think that's so important. So going back to some of this, I mean, I know some of this data looks kind of old, but it's just kind of I can even probably pull up some more data, but here's just some data that shows, like, here's, the visible learning ones, teacher-student relationships, that strong relationships had an effect size of 0.72, well above the average impact of a 0.4. And they're just showing that these little things that we can do can truly build that. The second one, a study found that positive teacher-student relationships in early elementary years were linked to higher academic achievement, fewer behavior issues through 8th grade. And then another one that says, of the 99 studies reveal the positive relationship of teachers are associated with increased student engagement and academic performance, particularly in middle and high school. And I even believe as administrators, that is so important that we help build those positive relationships, and we'll get into a lot of this, but that's such important that, and then, sometimes we sit here and go, "Oh, that's common knowledge. Everybody knows a positive relationship." But do we go that extra step, or do we take that extra minute to truly ask, "Hey, to build that relationship, to let the students know how much we care for them, who they are, and how we want to help them." One of my favorite quotes, and one of my favorite coaches, Coach K, I went to his coach's clinic back multiple years ago, and this just really hit home to me, and more in the classroom than on the court, but it really helped me more in the classroom than when Coach K said, when I first started coaching, I could coach one way and everybody got it. And when he talked about that one way, it was like this is how we do it. Everybody's on the same page. Not that I'm going to yell at every kid, but I could just talk and say, "Hey, player A, you've got to do this," and they were going to do this. Or, "Hey, it was the same coaching for all 12 players, for everybody on the team." Then today, he said, I have to figure out how to push 12 different buttons to help my players. I could change that to how to push 20 different or 30 different buttons for that classroom. Some students, they can walk in and you can look at them and give them that look and they're going to do the right thing. Some students, you've got to praise them for every positive little thing that they do. Hey, great job, you sat down. Hey, great job, you opened your book. Some students, you have to raise your voice and say, hey, it's time to get working. And you have to figure out what pushes their buttons. Some students, like if you look at them the wrong way, they're done for the day. Their anxiety, they melt, they're done. Some students takes a little motivation. Some students, they go home, they get yelled at all the time. So the last thing that you need when they come into the classroom is for you to yell at them all the time. You got to show them that. And it's just showing them that you love them, showing them that you care. You've got to figure out how student A, B, C, D, what motivates them, what can help build that relationship. And that really goes back to, the importance of building that relationship. I love this little image, and I saw this and I was like, oh, I've got to add this to this. How our students feel. I feel like a lot of times our students feel like they're running into the gate. They can't get past it. They don't see the other side, the big picture behind it. They're focused on the one issue. I didn't get breakfast today. My mom and dad were upset. I didn't clean my room. And I'm going to start off the morning. I got in trouble on the bus. The bus driver was upset with me. I was running 5 minutes late. I didn't brush my teeth. Or this person upset me 2 days ago because they wouldn't let me play with that toy. Or they said something about me and I can't let that go. And they feel alone. They're looking around to be noticed. I mean, the number of times I laugh. I'm walking in the hall and students are coming. Oh, Mr. Fagans, did I tell you that last night we went to get pizza and I had a slice of pizza and they just want somebody to listen to them, or the ones who are stuck behind the door, or the one who's looking like, oh, hey, this is how we can go around, but they're too afraid to take that chance because they might get in trouble, or that I can't go forward because I don't know how, or I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. And if I make that mistake, oh no, what's going to happen? And so, they get stuck behind that gate and that wall, and they just can't, get it. And it's our jobs as educators is, to break down that wall, to open that gate for them so they can see that big field behind them or the water to the left of them, so they can do that. And I left one blank because so many of us could fill in. Our students fill blank, 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 and I just think it's so important that we remember, the number of times I've said this, this student's not getting in trouble. What's that big issue? What's that underlying issue that's really holding that student back, that's not allowing them to be who they want to be or to be successful? A little more data just for you guys to show. Students who feel that their teachers care about them are 7 times more likely to be engaged. This also shows this demonstration that students with strong relational connections are more likely to achieve academic and personal goals. So you can see I've stressed a lot of this with the data, that we as educators, administrators, teachers, it's our job to build those relationships. They might upset you. They might frustrate you. They might walk in and give you that look. We can't take it personal, but we've got to work with them and say, okay, how can I build that better relationship with everybody to let them know that, hey, I care about them. We want to help them to be successful. And, I wish I could say it's smooth, it's easy. But one of the things that relationship challenges and solutions are, there's challenges, so many times I have teachers who will say, oh, I don't have enough time to build a relationship, or I don't have time, we're trying to do this, 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 and this, and that, and everything with that. And I just don't have that time, to be able to do that. And so how are we going to be able to do this? And how do I connect with that student? So the teachers, the educators, the administrators feel that time, the dealing with resentment or the withdrawing of students, oh, the frustration with that. I put in all this work, I went out of my way, and then the next day it's just like a slap in the face. They're not even caring. I feel like I'm back at ground zero. I took 2 steps forward and I'm taking 5 steps backwards. And then the one thing you always hear, the balancing of authority and friendliness. And I always laugh because there's so many videos out there that I sent the kid to the office because they were in trouble, and 5 minutes later they're coming back with a bag of chips. And I'm not the one who's going to send back with a bag of chips, but maybe the issue was that they never get breakfast at school or at home. They're always running late, and by 9:30 they're so hungry that they don't know how they get hangry, or they just can't do that, and or you need to give them a bag of chips. No, but you got to figure out what's that problem. Does a teacher need to say, hey, what's going on? Is there a snack that needs to be? But being able to show them the authority, but also the friendliness of being able to show them that you care and that you want to build a relationship. And I think that's so important, that we see the balance. It's not our job to be friends. I mean, my two kids I feel very close to, but there were times that, I would draw the line and say, okay, guys, you messed up. Here's your consequence, and then there were times that, they just needed that love. And I think that's so important when you're building the relationship, that you find that balance. I've seen so many times over the years where a teacher just wants to be their friend. When it comes time for them to help that student or discipline that student, they can't, because they built that friendliness. But I've seen so many times too the importance of being that person who's being able to say, okay, you messed up, here's the consequence, now we're back here. One of the things I always tell the students right before they leave is like, hey, you made a bad choice, I still love you, I still care for you, but we can't make those bad choices. Letting them know that it's not them personally, but it was that mistake that they made, that choice that they made, that hurt them. And then the solutions to these challenges: prioritize check-ins with quieter or struggling students. We talk to our teachers a lot about meeting them at the door, taking that minute when a student's walking in, reading them and saying, hey, how you doing? How was last night? Checking in with them so you can build that. There's times of, we'll have students who are coming back from recess and they need a cool up pass, just because so many things happen during recess, that they just need that 5 minutes to reconnect, to take that deep breath, to check in and kind of go with that. Offer consistent encouragement and patience. I go back to Coach K's quote, being able to push 12 different buttons is so important. And then maintain the clear boundaries while showing care. Showing them that you care, but still showing them the boundaries that, you're the teacher, you're the administrator, you're the educator. So if we can change our thinking and actions by fostering trust, empathy, educators can uncover the root causes behind behavior and guide students toward positive growth. When students feel connected to their teachers, they are more motivated to succeed, not out of fear of consequences, but out of genuine desire to do well, maintain those positive relationships. This approach supports their development and creates a safe and encourage environment. And I think that's so important for us to really look at that. I don't want a student to do the right thing just because of the fear of consequences. We talk a lot of times with a student, man, you emptied that teacher's bucket. You emptied your friend's bucket. You emptied my bucket because, we built this trust and you said you were going to do the right thing. And then all of a sudden here you are doing that, and just giving them to take ownership. I think that's so important. One of the things my dad always told me, when I first started being an educator, he's like, Mike, you had so many opportunities to help with this kid. If the first time a kid messes up, you send them to the administration office, they're done. That's one thing that you've lost. But if I'm, as an educator, the first time they messed up, I've got a plan, then I can hold that carrot or that opportunity or that consequence later of sending them to the to the office. And I think so many times, sometimes teachers like, I just got to send them to the office because I can't deal with them. Well, then that's destroying their relationship or not building that positive relationship. And one of the things we really focused on at our school this year is we have level 1, level 2 consequences. If a student's doing this, then what's that? That's level 1. That's where that needs to be dealt with in the classroom. Where this is a level 2, where it needs to be dealt with in the office, or the kid needs to be sent to the office. One of the things, psychological evidence, and this is one of the things that, sometimes we forget the hierarchy of needs. Students must feel a sense of belonging and connection, third tier, before they can fully engage in higher level tasks like learning. And so I'm going back to our days in college, and first education or that first education class. So many of our students are struggling at the bottom where, not getting the food or the water or the shelter that they need, clothing or sleep. A number of times I've had a parent call me and say, hey, Mr. Fagans, we're just giving you a heads up. Our kid didn't sleep very well last night. So, they're going to struggle today. So that gives us that, okay, how can I help that student build that relationship? How can I have that relationship, talk to them, and, and they're getting in trouble and the teacher sends them to the office and I'm like, hey, I know you didn't sleep very well last night. What can we do to help you? Letting them try to meet those needs, safety and security, the importance of this, and for them to feel safe. And that's so many times that we've talked about it, just they have to understand that feeling of being safe and the importance of knowing how to feel safe. And just being that in that situation, the love and belonging, that's so important that they have to have the friendship, the family, the sense of connection, self-esteem, the confidence, the achievement, the respect of others, the need to be unique individuals. And then at the end, when all those things start coming together, then we start seeing the inner potential, the self-worth, the experiences, the creativity. And then we also talked about one of these real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's the little conversations that build the relationships and make an impact on each student. I can't tell you the difference that it makes. We had a kid who was into the Titanic and he always wanted to, oh, I got to tell you about the Titanic, Mr. Fagans. And just me asking him about the Titanic was able to build that relationship and help him to make better choices. Now, the other one that we mentioned earlier, the attachment connection theory, where do students fall into place? Are they fearful? Are they avoiding it? Do they feel secure? Do they feel anxious? How can we positive role that, be that positive model for others? How in the negative, man, I want to avoid, we have students who sometimes like, man, I just want to hide. Don't notice me. Don't call on me. Please don't notice that I did this. And they're just trying to be, where they can. And we need to really help them focus on trying to get them to that secure location. One of the things you're starting to hear more and more recently is just that social emotional learning, SEL, and just how to help them foster those relationships. And, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because this truly is a presentation itself. But one of the things that I wanted to bring this up and I added this is just because the importance of that social emotional, where are they at socially, how can we help them? I had a student one time tell me, that he came to me as kind of his mentor, and Mr. Fagans, the teachers are mad at me. Why are they mad at me? I'm not turning in my homework. Well, why aren't you turning your homework? Mr. Fagans, when I wake up in the morning, I got to wake my brother up. I got to feed him breakfast. I got to get him dressed. They're in kindergarten. I got to get them to school on the bus. And then when I get home, I got to take care of mom and dad are working 2 jobs, trying to support. And then I got to put them to bed. And the last thing on my mind is homework. And by the time I'm done with all that, I just want to sleep. And it's like, oh my goodness. So we talked to the teachers and it was like, okay, how can we help you? And started giving them time, like, instead of going to recess, they were able to spend some time with that, or going to recess, and they, instead of giving them some of that extra time to do that, and it made a huge difference. And the kid felt that relationship, but felt loved to make better choices. So now it comes to the fun part, the call to action, building the relationships. One of the things I think is so important is engaging your audience. And when I say the audience, that's the student, that's the educator. What strategies have worked for you in building the student relationship? You got to ask yourself that every day. And we always laugh that, hey, this is going to work for 3 days. Now we're going to have to figure out the next thing. Or this has worked really good for the last couple of days. We got to figure out what else we can do. And really encourage brainstorming, role play scenarios. I had a student one time who was just struggling and always getting in trouble, and we built a relationship. So one day I said, okay, I want you to sit behind my desk. You're the assistant principal and I'm you. You've got a student who did this, 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 and this. And all of a sudden his eyes opened up and he was like, Mr. Fagans, I see it now. And he was much better for a couple months. And then we had to go to something else. But it's that constantly engaging the educator, the administrator, the student of what strategies is going to work. Does this student need a brain break? Do they need to carry a book to the office? Do they need to go out and do a sensory walk? Do they need to do a minds in motion? Do they need to stand up in the back of the room, turn themselves around 3 times? Or what do they need to do? Figuring out what that strategy is to help them. And then creating a positive classroom, school culture, baby steps to help, celebrate successes. One of the things, we constantly focus on the little achievements. Hey, instead of focusing like, well, the first hour he got in trouble 3 times, well, focus at the first hour, 40 minutes, that student was focusing, doing really good. Encourage group work, peer support. Sometimes, students, when they, you have a couple of peers there to help them, or they're not on the right page and you have a peer say, hey, we're on page 10, that really helps them to get back to focus. Incorporate the student voice. Let students contribute ideas and feedback. One of the things, not to let the student run the classroom or the school, but to say, okay, you're struggling. What can we do to help you? Like I said, the one student says, Mr. Fingers, I just need like a snack halfway through the breakfast. I'm starving my stomach and I can't focus. Okay, what can we do to help with you? Then the building the importance technique, use icebreakers, team building activities, and we'll get into some of these. Rotate leadership roles. We had a student one time who's always in trouble, and finally we made them the line leader or the paper passer out, or that got them moving. Totally changed the kid's life. And just by figuring out that they wanted to be more involved, it was able for us to do that. And it made a huge difference. Then let's talk about the foundations of building a relationship, the strategy, showing interest, learning the student's interest, strengths and challenges. I have a student who, he loves little, fidgets, and he's, oh, Mr. Fagans, you have any new fidgets? And, he'll need a cola pass, and he'll come down and, hey, check out this new fidget. Oh, that's awesome. Or, hey, if you're good today, you can earn this prize, or you can earn computer time. Communicate consistently with a student. Use clear, positive communication. That's so important to teach our teachers, to our educators, just to be able to communicate, to let them know, there's so many times that, well, the student keeps getting in trouble. Well, what have you said to them? Well, I haven't. I just, well, you've got to communicate to them. Then you got to be approachable, maintain an openness and non-judgmental attitudes. It takes a lot to truly find out what that deep issue is. And to find out, okay, this student's not hating school because of this student hates school because they can't read like everybody else, so they're so embarrassed. That's why they're getting in trouble before that. And then model empathy, demonstrate understanding, compassion. One time I told a student, man, I'm just having a bad day. My dad's been in the hospital. I'm struggling. And they're like, oh, Mr. Fagan, showing them that compassion, teaching them the compassion, say, hey, I understand you're struggling, but you still got to do the right thing. You still got to make good choices. And then use a getting to know questionnaire at the start of the year. Get to know your students. One of my favorite things at the beginning of the very school year, we would always sit down and just say, okay, here is a question. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite thing? So we can use that throughout the year. Building trust, the must-dos. The importance of the must-dos, being consistent, follow through on promises. I had a student come up and said, Mr. Fagans, I earned my prize. Well, if I told the student, oh, I'm sorry, you don't get the prize, I don't have it, he's not going to follow. He doesn't feel like I'm holding my promise. Treat all students equitable, considering individual needs. I tell you what, it's so funny. Like when two kids are in trouble and I say, okay, here's what did the other kid get? We're not worried about the other kid. We're focusing on you. What did you do? And then confident, respect personal information shared by students. If a student comes to me and they're telling me this is happening at home or this is going on with these, I've got to respect it. I'm not going to go up to the other students and say, hey, student A said this, and this. I'm going to keep that. And then other huge do's, address conflicts privately sometimes. Sometimes, when you're yelling at the student in front of the whole class, that's even destroying your relationship, but try to do it privately. We talked a lot about stoplights on desk and, hey, you're on yellow. You better, you need to focus on trying to do something, that's your second warning. There's 2 tallies on there and trying to really help them. And then creating predictable routines and really trying to focus on structures and trying to keep students doing the right thing. And, I always call it, we moved their cheese. We had a 2-hour delay. Their cheese has been moved. So their whole day's off. They didn't get breakfast at school, or they had to leave for a doctor's appointment and they're back, or we had a program that their cheese was moved. So how can we help them help them through that change of a routine? And then I love this. This is an ABC checklist that we will talk to our teachers about. Okay, here's the date, here's the time. What's happening? What's show us where this is happening so we can say, oh, every morning at 9:30 this kid's struggling. Why are they struggling at 9:30? Or every day after recess they're struggling. What can we do to help them? What's the concern that we can show them? Okay, this is happening at this time. What's happening before that? So we can figure out what the true issue is. And then one of the things that I love to talk about is building those interventions that we can use to help students. That support person, having somebody who they can go to. We had a couple instructional assistants who just had a great relationship with the student, and they were always like, hey, if you need to cool off, this is a person you could check in with during lunch. Check in, check out. That is so important to help building relationships with that struggling student, with that student who can do that. The 2x10, I love this. For the next 10 days, spend 2 minutes talking to the student, not about school, not about homework, not about anything, but just things that have been going on in their life. Hey, we just got back from Christmas break. Tell me about your Christmas break. The next day, hey, tell me how recess was. And then if we get to the point with the struggling students, we'll look at a behavior intervention plan. When are the behaviors occurring? Changing their schedule, trying to figure out alternate opportunities to help them. We might even look at an intervention of building a relationship with social skills intervention group. Hey, we've got 3 students who are still struggling with this. And then I love, love, love this. The choice reward survey. What motivates them? Is it chips? Is it being a line leader? Is it time one-on-one lunch with the principal or a teacher? Or is it, I had a student who wanted to earn basketball time with me, and if you did this, earn this, and you got to go play basketball with me for a little bit. And then modeling the instruction, really showing them what a good relationship is, showing them that they can trust them. So this is an example of that choice survey I talked about. We have another one that shows, like, for younger kids, that we will have images, but, like, for example, do you want to be the first one to finish your work, or do you want the 100 on your paper, the A+? Do you want to ask to be on a team, or do you want a bag of chips? And this is kind of where we can find out what truly motivates the kids in those situations. More opportunities, building the relationships with struggling students, with those students who are struggling. Mentorship programs like the Check and Connect, teacher testimonies, report them when they invest in strong relationships, show them that how they do that. Celebrate those testimonials with teachers, like, hey, this kid's struggling in 1st and 2nd grade, and all of a sudden they're doing a great job in 3rd grade. Show the perseverance in challenging tasks. Let them know that, hey, man, look at this teacher took some time and built a relationship with the student, and they're doing so much. I'll go into teachers like, man, I'm so impressed with how much better so-and-so's doing because you're building that relationship with them. And then more opportunities, recognition opportunities. We have what we call the Rider of the Month. We noticed, looking at our data, that a lot of kids were getting in trouble on the bus. So we decided to make a reward every month that the bus driver gets to pick one student who's the Rider of the Month. They'll come down and get a treat from us, like a sucker, and they get their picture taken, and we just really celebrate. They get their name over there, and they think that's great. Student of the Month, we focus on like a life skill each month, like respect, and then the teachers will pick a student from their classroom, and they get to have lunch with the principal and myself. Daily rewards, we want our teachers to really use this each week, that, hey, if you made the right choices, we're going to do this. You'll get an extra 10 minutes of computer time, or you get this special treat, or anything like that. And everybody knows about PBIS, et cetera, but just trying to find that recognition. I heard a great speaker one time that said people would rather be recognized for doing the right thing instead of being paid. And that recognition is such a huge motivation for people. So as we're finishing up in the next few minutes, just some simple reminders to remember. Take that action to correct, reteach behavior by using opportunities and interventions and consequences, but just taking that time to make sure we're reteaching it. When possible, have the consequence connect and correspond with the infraction. Consistent, communicate with families, positive and negative. The principal and I did the month of November, when we asked teachers, send us something positive. And it was so nice for me to be able to call parents and just give them a positive. And then this, the kids came out, I heard you call my mom and dad last night, then I did this. Be consistent and patient. Behavior change takes time. We always talk about the kids struggling reading, we're putting them in Title I, we're doing small groups, we're doing like this. But when we talk about behavior, we just expect that. Behavior change takes time. We got to look at, MTS, building that intervention plan, building the relationship. It takes time to change behaviors. Sometimes, we're trying to change behaviors that are done from 3:30 to 7:30 during school from 8 to 3. And we got to find a way that it's going to take time, build positive relationships. And that's what this presentation is all about, is setting those high expectations, those clear rules with them, the consequences, the consistency, the equal, the acknowledgement of positive behavior, the effort, the improvement on behalf, giving fist bumps, telling students what a great job they did, walking into a classroom and say, hey, I noticed you did this. We all make mistakes every day. And we need to let students know, hey, you made a mistake on Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to have a new fresh start. I'm not going to think about what all happened. I want you to come in on that your chalkboard is clean, your dry erase board, we're starting over. I'm not going to hold that against you. And I think that's so important for kids to understand. As we finish, every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they possibly be. And I think that's so important, as we as educators, that we build those relationships for students to go out of their way to be the best possible person that they can be. And again, last thing, long-term relationships and increase the self-confidence of students. It builds a better emotional, social skills, and build a better way that kids can handle a change in their life. It's a greater academic persistence and achievement. And how does it benefit educators? That enhance of job satisfaction, a deeper understanding of student needs, and a positive classroom dynamics. Final thoughts. Every interaction is an opportunity to make a difference in a student's life. Let's commit to building bridges one connection at a time. And I just want to end like that. Thank you for being part of the presentation. Thank you for listening. If you ever have any questions or anything, you can always reach out to me. And I really appreciate the time. I'm the assistant principal at Russell Elementary School. My personal email is mfagans33@gmail.com. My school email is mfagans@rcsd.k12.in.us. Hope to hear from you. I really appreciate you taking time to listen. And again, building that relationship is finding that time just to get to know the student, to understand their needs and their wants. And also that will help our teachers, help our administrators just to feel that job satisfaction and know that we're making a difference in lives. And we as administrators or we as teachers can make such a difference just by that small little conversation. Have a great day, and thank you, everybody.